now, digital transformation consultant and founder of Girls STEM, Victoria Nxumalo, has been nominated for the Women Tech Global Awards 2021. She's currently a country lead for Zimbabwe of the SAP Africa Code Week, the largest digital skills initiative on the African continent, where she co-moderates the Women Empowerment Program for female educators, which is responsible for the professional development of French and English-speaking female educators across the African continent. She joins us now from Bulawayo in Zimbabwe. A great pleasure speaking to you, Victoria, and thank you so much for joining us. I was quite excited to be in conversation with you today because when you hear of news from Zimbabwe, it's usually quite negative, but this is something quite positive. Congratulations to you. Firstly, how are you feeling?
Feeling absolutely amazing. Good afternoon, Dudu, and thank you so much for having me on the show.
So tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
All right. So Girls in STEM Trust is an education nonprofit based in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, and we are geared towards educating and empowering young women and girls to take up STEM studies, careers, and businesses. We're also on a mission to get 1 million women in STEM in Zimbabwe by 2030. And as the old saying goes, if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. And so this is really what we concern ourselves with.
Absolutely. What's been the uptake and interest from the women of Zimbabwe?
Absolutely. I mean, the intake has been absolutely amazing. You know, when we look at the fourth industrial revolution and all that, you know, it really is accelerating in terms of technology. And when we look at the gender digital, gap for women as well, it's so important for Zimbabwean women to embrace this. And really, we've seen, a lot of female educators, a lot of female, entrepreneurs, women and girls in schools, really looking for careers in STEM and careers in technology particularly. And so this has been really exciting for us as Zimbabweans.
With everything, there's challenges and there's wins, right? So walk us through some of the challenges that you have faced or are still facing in trying to capacitate women in Zimbabwe.
Yeah, a lot of challenges really. And, you know, again, going back to that gender digital divide, that gap, that skills gap that exists, it really is difficult for women in developing countries to get access to education and then, more so access to technology education due to a number of barriers. We're looking at, infrastructure, connectivity issues. There's just so much that makes it that much more difficult for women to actually uptake technological and digital skills. But you know what? This is actually a global problem. It's a universal problem. And these are the challenges that are ongoing. But when we look at, again, how COVID-19 really has accelerated some of the needs for online platforms, you can see now an uptake of women trying to find creative ways of running e-commerce businesses, stepping into technological ways of getting things done. And this really just goes to show that despite the challenges, despite the barriers, there's always a way around it.
How then do we change the status quo, right? South Africa, for example, in a recent report, scored below the global average of 30% of women pursuing science, technology, engineering, and mathematics careers. But it's still leading in sub-Saharan Africa.
Absolutely. It's still leading in sub-Saharan Africa. And you know what needs to happen? We need to support ongoing learning to close these, skills gaps. We also need to recruit women for leadership positions, right? So we can't be what we can't see. And, once we start to offer flexible schedules, solutions for employees who are female, who are, 9 times out of 10, always the caregiver, and just, speaking about inclusive language, language that women can understand, that women can embrace. And, it starts like that. Little movements like that, little initiatives like that will get a lot of women interested and feeling like they really do belong. And, ultimately, even just creating that community of practice amongst women in tech.
The continent is holding its own, though, right, on a global stage. We have produced some amazing men and women in this space. I just want to know, in the space that you operate in Zimbabwe, for instance, the participation of not only government but the private sector in accelerating the work that you do. What does that look like?
Absolutely amazing, because now we really accept that women have a pivotal and key role to play as far as technology is concerned, and also in just also inspiring the next generation of tech leaders. And there's been, deliberate, policies and initiatives, even from government, to STEMatize first our education. So there's a lot of uptake for, driving a lot of girls to take STEM, even to the point of offering scholarships for school fees and things like that. And then also, when we look at the private sector, they are also creating positions of leadership for women in their various companies. And in supporting Girls in STEM Trust in particular, it's actually allowing some of our up-and-coming, STEM entrepreneurs, STEM career chasers to actually go into the world of STEM by allowing them for internship programs, just for them to get a feel of what it's like to be a woman in STEM. And this really has gone a long way in changing the mindset and really just the cultural shift in women saying, you know what, yes, we do belong in the field of STEM, we do belong in the field of technology. And we've seen an upsurge in this in our country.
That is phenomenal, and that was going to be my next question to you in terms of the impact that this has had on the lives of these women. But perhaps let's go here, right? So just to bring it closer to home, these women are then capacitated to do what in terms of careers?
So in terms of careers, a lot of girls look at careers, model careers on paper, in theory, and say, you know what, I'd like to be career X or career Y, but really have no full, don't have a fuller understanding of what that career really entails. And so by being exposed to that before they make a final decision about the area of expertise that they're going to follow, this really helps, in them being able to then share these experiences with other girls to say, hey, look, career X is demanding in this regard, but it's rewarding as well in this regard. And so this is, sort of the fundamentals that we're sort of, dealing with, because really we can't exactly run before we crawl. And so these little initiatives have had a ripple effect on, just getting girls to be more confident, getting girls to understand that there is an exciting world out there that is called STEM. And, just embracing it and, bringing up another tribe of women to come along with them.
Just beautiful. So I think of the African Continental Free Trade Area Act. It's supposed to foster collaboration on the continent. With the work that you do you find that we're operating in silos, or are we singing from the same hymn book as countries on the continent and working together where this is concerned?
Definitely singing from the same hymn book, and I'll tell you why. I'll just give you an example just to put it into perspective. Like Girls in STEM Trust is involved in amazing initiatives, that touch the lives of female educators across the African continent. And this is through I'll give you an example, the initiative by SAP, which is a continuing professional education development for female educators called the Women Empowerment Program under its Africa Code big banner. And in these areas, women are being, taught to take up careers in leadership in education, as well as, how technology plays a pivotal role in education. And this has been able to have over 38 countries being involved and over 295 alumni in Africa. And this really just goes to show that we have realized that there is power in community, there is power in collaboration. And, now that we're no longer, operating in silos, but we do understand that collaborating together for a unity of purpose is what will get us to the promised land.
As we mentioned, you have been nominated for the Women Tech Global Awards 2021. We're definitely rooting for you. I want to talk about those awards and what that means for you.
Well, and thank you so much for highlighting that. But, before I even speak about, the awards themselves, it's so important for networks, across all spheres, particularly in technology. And as I alluded to earlier, given the fact that the fourth industrial revolution has really set the global standard really for life as we know it, and, and all these surrounding technologies for us to play catch up with, that community, establishing that community of practice which allows for collective ownership of the fact that women in tech have a key role to play in contributing to, technological advancements, forming synergies, and all of that. It's really, really so important. And so the Women Tech Network provides exactly that. It provides that diversity and inclusion in the tech field, which leads to diversity in solutions. And it has over 50,000 women in tech, various spaces, in its community that provides exactly just the things that we've been speaking about. Now, over to the Women Tech Network Global Awards. This is basically a celebration of the top 100,000 women who have contributed to tech worldwide in various capacities. And this could be in different ways, growing networks, being actively involved in mentorship, imparting digital skills, creating spaces for women in tech to thrive. And just looking at this nomination, in the category Mentor of the Year, it's both humbling and challenging. Because when you have the privilege of influencing a space, and a space as important as this one, that privilege comes with responsibility. And that responsibility is to understand that you have to contribute constantly and meaningfully to that space. And that's something that I think drives me, just looking at that nomination in my journey as a woman in tech, to, be constantly challenged, to continuously grow and to strive for excellence. And also just, in principle, I really do believe that in order for us to all succeed, we must serve. And that nomination in itself is a reminder of that.
Victoria Nxumalo, you've already won our hearts. Magwande, thank you very much. Founder and Executive Director at Girls in STEM Trust, joining us from Bulawayo in Zimbabwe.